Hey there, Edgewood community. This video is going to show you how to deploy Sven, our pool vacuum robot. Couple of things to keep in mind. Never want to have any swimmers in the pool when you deploy this thing. Obviously because it's got an electrical cord attached to it. Of course, that thing's insulated, should be okay, but still not a very good policy to have something electric in the pool while swimmers are actually doing their swimming thing. So what you're going to see me do in a couple of seconds is going to be this task that we're mostly going to do as facilities crew at the nightly check-in after the guards have locked up. And I'll go through all the steps of this. This is really something that we're hoping to do every day. And the purpose of all this is pretty obvious, right? You're just trying to vacuum up any kind of debris that's brought in by our guests or the trees or squirrels or whatever other weird things find their way into the pool. Ducks, things like that. Okay, so let's see how to do it. All right, so the very first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go get the caddy where Sven lives when he's not doing his job. I'm hoping to keep it right about here. Of course, he may move around, but obviously it's important we keep him inside when he's not working. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna roll this sucker out and we're gonna put it on the opposite side of the pool. So here we are kind of at the corner of the pool where you'll definitely want to take advantage of this black hose right here. One of the things you'll notice is that there are actually two compartments that contain filters for this little guy. Each one is contained in this little area right here. And when you pull it out, you'll be able to see that there is basically a filter box. And this is the part that you'll actually want to clean out. So let me show you how to do that. So it looks like you can open those two tabs and the filter should pop out pretty nicely. There's all the junk. And again, you're just going to grab a bucket and we're going to put that in the bucket, wash it out with a little bit of water. Oh, one thing that is important, you'll notice that this gap right here is going to fit a similar gap on the machine. So there's a slot, there's a close-up view of that slot that I was talking about. Obviously, you want the slot on the filter to fit appropriately like so. We'll go ahead and do the other side. So the first thing you want to know about Sven is he's got a nice little carrying handle here. If this thing happens to move out of its spot, it actually is a relatively important thing to keep track of. You don't really want to move this out of the kind of the diagonal position that it's on. So the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to hold on to this handle and move Sven onto the ground. One thing you'll want to keep track of is you don't really want to move this handle around too much. Every once in a while it slips out of its spot. You do want it to be at a little bit of a diagonal. So I'll show you this kind of after the video, but you want it at a kind of just a very slight diagonal right here. If it happens to slip, you might have to change it up a little bit. The next step is you're going to watch me as I kind of unroll this cord. And the path that I'm going to follow is I'm going to follow on the ground. I'm not going to put the wire cable in the water until I have to. And I'm just going to lay it out to its full extent. And I'll show you where I put the power supply and caddy. So as I laid this out, I did my best to take out all the kinks that I could. Obviously, at this point, Sven's pretty new to us, so there are a little extra kinks that are kind of work themselves out as we make this cord a little bit more pliable. Another kind of tip that I highly recommend you follow is you keep close eye on the end of the cable here. We don't want this to go into the water for pretty obvious reasons, because we're going to plug it into the power supply in just a second. So let me show you the power supply and how to set this up. So especially on a day like this where the threat of rain is looming, I like to keep the caddy kind of in some sort of sheltered spot away from the elements as best as possible. A lot of these items are splash proof, but you want to really minimize as much as you can the amount of water that gets on them. This is the power supply right here. And this is the little remote that's used to remote control Sven in the pool if you wanted to do kind of like a manual thing. So we are not going to plug this in yet. Note, I said we are not going to plug this in. I'm going to untwirl the power cord here, but I'm not going to plug it in yet. What I am going to plug in by taking off this little cap is the cord leading to Sven. And there's a little, might be able to see it in the video, but there's a little notch in this that fits over a notch on the side of this cord attachment. And then you simply screw it in as best you can. And at this point, we are ready to submerge the vacuum, and I'll show you how to do that. First thing we're going to do is come over and put Sven in his favorite spot. He loves to swim. It's pretty simple. You just gently put it in the water, making sure to use the handle and not the cord, and let it submerge itself. One of the things that you'll notice is that I haven't put any of this line into the water just yet. I find that it gets tangled the least if you kind of run it like this in front of the guard chair and behind the water inlet outlet and the ladder, and then back to the power supply. Now that Sven is submerged, we are going to keep in mind that the second I plug this in, I'm not allowed to touch the water, and it's pretty easy to plug him in. Just lift this little flap up, plug it in like so. And what we're going to do, and I'll do a close-up on this in just a second, is we're going to press the main power button. And so you can see that this is the main power button. We turn it on. It goes through a couple of diagnostic tests. And assuming that we don't have any kind of alarms here, this is, by the way, the delayed start functionality, and this tells you when the filters need to be cleaned. Occasionally that light will be lit, and you'll have to press reset in order to get Sven to work. I have yet to have to do that, however. And so we should turn around and see some nice bubbling from Sven. That means he is operating. So you can see he's kind of going about his automatic program. One thing I did want to show all you guys, though, is that if for some reason you had to manually control Sven, that's what this little handhold remote is for. One of the first things I would do is attach this strap to your wrist so it doesn't fall in the pool. That's what it looks like when he's cleaning the sides. And there he goes, submerging back down to the bottom again. So one of the uses of this remote, you can see here that I've got a particular dirty area of the pool, and we're opening pretty soon. So I'd like to get Sven over here, and I don't want to wait the 3 hours or so that it takes for him to complete the entire task. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press the power button. And as long as you see this flashing light in the upper right corner, that's how you can control him manually. There's a bunch of other settings here that you can certainly screw around with as you see fit. But the important thing to recognize is that you can manually control Sven. He's waiting for me to give him a command right here. And so I'm going to turn him around so that I can come over here and try to vacuum up some of this junk before open. Takes a little practice getting used to, but he's a pretty responsive little guy. One thing I did want to show before I stop the video is to show you where that remote goes. So one of the other things I like to do is once I've got everything all set up, since I'm going to most likely leave it overnight, I just kind of put this as recessed as I can underneath this little roof right here. And that is about it. And if you'd like to see how to remove Sven from the pool, please see the appropriate video.